Oh man. Yeah,
It looked
dude.
it looked like a tight week going in, but the more and more time I spent on it, I gotta say I love the board today, boys.
I like it too. I like it too. There's a couple funky ones out there that when you look at this slate, does it not look like it's going to be a Vegas cleanup and the dogs are barking a bit?
I mean, I'm always barking, you know that. Well, it's funny because like we'll get to our picks, and I have a couple of the favorites out there, but I'm always barking, and there's definitely a few games on here this week where I'm all week. It's just they've been fishy. We'll get it. We can get right into one at the outset of this in New England because like there's a couple of these games. New England, there's a couple teams that are going to be desperate this week, so we could
Yeah.
start playing like the ebbs and flows of the NFL season. You got a couple teams up against the wall today that are going to be ready to throw everything they have, and an 0-2 matchup this week too in Tennessee. That's a big one for those two teams.
All right. Well, let's get into it real quick. I want to congratulate Sean and Gina on a beautiful wedding. I had a great time. Good friends of the show. Um, Definitely feeling it. Weddings, especially when you're in one, it's a long haul. And I am embarking on a new spiritual journey. I'm
Oh,
giving full wine reviews on Sunday. I just opened one up, about to start my second glass in a little bit, and stay tuned through the witching hour as the alcohol starts to set in. But yeah,
does
week
that mean
three.
what's in Mike's cup is now back for another season?
What's in Mike's cup is now back, and now you're going to get real takes on how the wine is and how it makes you feel. And I have a feeling the final review is going to definitely be impacted on how the 1 o'clock slate goes.
Mm, as it
So
usually does.
we have a good 1 o'clock slate, and then Mike will give a very good endorsement for whatever bottle he's drinking that Sunday. But yeah, let's get into it. This one's going to be a weird one, and I feel really good about a couple bad football teams.
Yeah. We're gonna kick it. Like I said, let's kick it off in New England.
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson, Ravens. They're visiting Mac Jones and the Patriots in New England today. This one opened up at 3. It's been sitting at 3, down to 2.5 as of today. Over the weekend, just moving a bit there, right? So this is one of those ones that I told you, Mike, that I've been looking at all day, but it's a little weird. I don't similar like going back to what we talked about last week with the New England game in Pittsburgh. I don't know if I see enough to back New England here at home. I wouldn't take anything less than the 3, but even then, I don't know. It's a little scary to me to back Baltimore in the other sense too, because I've just seen that number stuck there, up until just this weekend, scaring me.
Honestly, and you called it perfectly last week with that Pittsburgh New England matchup. It's going to end at 3. I see that one ending somewhere between 1 and 3 again. I
In
don't
favor of
know.
Baltimore, I lean Baltimore though.
I think you have to. They are a better football team. And with
Yeah,
that heartbreak of last week, this is a big bounce back week for them.
yeah.
They have to win this football game. And honestly, if they don't, whoever loses this game, in my opinion, like their season, they're gonna be in trouble.
I I don't know if I could say that for Baltimore. I mean I think they look good. I mean last week was a tough game. I mean what a game with in Miami, right? And then and we're
Unbelievable.
could be expecting another big one in Miami too, and we'll get to that. But I don't know if I see Baltimore dropping back to back. Right. That being said, like
Yeah.
I think Baltimore is the football guy's pick here. It's the square pick though, right?
Yeah.
79% of the tickets and 67% of the money coming in on Baltimore. I think the sharp pick, the contrarian pick, is New England. I just don't have it. My gut just isn't. It's not passing the gut test for me. So I'm staying away from this game. We'll get into exotic stuff, fancy stuff later. I like a couple touchdown scores today. Mark Andrews being one of them to get in the end zone this
Mm.
week. But otherwise, I'm moving off this game
Yeah.
unless you got anything better.
Now move on to the next one because it's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of, right, we're going right down to Miami, sticking with the AFC East theme. Buffalo and Josh Allen going down to Miami against Tua and co. What did you think of last week's game and how they came back against Baltimore? I know we were watching that one together. Another game about you mentioned Pittsburgh, New England, and this week, just like last week, I think there's a couple of those games where I think you could take either side and really come out either way. I mean, Miami was dead last week, getting 4.5 at home against Baltimore, storming back in the fourth quarter, and now they're getting what opened up at 5 points down to 4.5 now at home against Buffalo with Josh Allen and the Bills coming to town.
Yeah, Miami is Arizona still. I cannot bet any game that team's playing in, but Miami's going to be one of those teams this year where I just don't really like either side, especially. The Bills' defense is depleted, but they still have the most important player in the NFL to date in Josh Allen. That dude is a dangerous man. So I don't really care who he has available in his secondary on the defensive side. He's going to put up points, and I really like him to win pretty much any football game. But looking at that defense and some of the weapons that Miami has, Miami's going to score too. So like I was saying earlier, I do like the over, but that's another square play. And so that game to me is just another stay away. I still lean Buffalo. They still look like they're in the middle of a revenge tour. And I'm still not buying Miami yet. Huge comeback. And it was heartbreaking being a Ravens better, but I'm just not buying the Tua hype train. And I'm giving credit where it's due. That was an unreal comeback. He played out of his mind in the fourth. But there's got to be more game control by the Ravens there in the fourth quarter. You're too good of an organization to let something like that happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens and Buffalo are while I think they're both solid teams and AFC contenders, two very differently built football teams. And what comes with that is like two differently paced games. So I think, to your point, I think it's a different test for Miami this week hosting Buffalo, and it would be, an even bigger test than Baltimore and another prove it, right, for Tua this week. I'm not going to say I'm not completely sold on them. I think Miami's got a solid squad, especially with the way they came back against Baltimore. But again, I'm staying off this one. You mentioned the total. That opened up at 50.5. That's up to 54.5. Yeah, I think it's very high. I'm going to stay off it. Majority of the money is on the over, but again, crept up a little too high for me. Actually, now just popped to 55 on DraftKings, so it's even going higher.
That's a lot of points. I mean, both those offenses are proven to score touchdowns, and especially with the Bills' defense being so banged up. But this is just like where all the proof's in the pudding. I can't back it because it looks too easy. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Well, like some of the other games, like the first one we talked about, I do like some touchdown scores today to mix it up on some of the games that we don't have like strong plays on. So in this one, I do like Diggs to get in the end zone. I think he's just the level that him and Allen are on. You mentioned like how you see Allen just in the NFL, and I know he's like, I know what you think of him as one of the best players in the league. I think again, it's the way he's able to rely on Diggs and, his kind of the way he stepped up as a number one since coming to Buffalo. So I like the path that they're on. So I like him to get in the end zone too for Buffalo today. I think last week we hit Waddle on our touchdown. We didn't hit the touchdown parlay, but Waddle was a pick, and to get in. I mean, he went off yesterday, or last week. I mean, so I would look for a couple touchdowns between each team again. I don't know if I like the high total, but Diggs is my pick to get in the end zone in this one.
I mean, it's a safe bet. He got in there 3 times last week. So take us on to the next one, Rob.
Yeah, we're going to go moving a little bit further up north into New York. We got Cincinnati and Joe Burrow coming into New York against the mighty Joe Flacco-led New York Jets. What do you like in this one so far?
I don't really want to do this, but I am taking the Bengals -6. And this is a must-win game for them. Give me them to win by at least 1 touchdown today. And especially you had the Jets get a big win last week. I think they're trending in the right direction, but everybody's so down on the Bengals. Joe Burrow deleted all his social media accounts, so he's focused. He's 0 dark 30 right now.
Oh, he's going LeBron 0 dark 30.
He's 0 dark 30. So give me a 0 dark 30 Joe Burrow to show out today. in New York.
I love that. See, I love when you come in with that extra knowledge. I already have Cincinnati out there. I had that out there on Wednesday at -6. Since jumping on, I see it at 6.5 now, pretty much across the board. I like the 6 still, like you said, under a touchdown. I like them to get right. This is one of those spots where you have, again, an 0-2 team up against it. I think you and I both. I don't think either of us really expected Cincinnati to jump out of the gate this year, but at the same time, I know they're a better team than they're playing, and I know they're a better team than the Jets. Granted, we've at least me last week been on the Jets, and I think the Jets have improved this year, but like them to get this one by a touchdown. Dipped down to 4 earlier in the week, and there was a huge buy-in on Cincinnati when it got down to 4.5. Got it back up to 6 for the better part of the weekend up until today. Now it's 6.5. I think it's a simple play here to take Cincinnati and lay the points and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I just trust Joe Burrow to get it right, and it's been humbling for him those first 2 games, and I think last week really put things into perspective for him where it's just not going to be that easy. So I do really like Joe Burrow to handle his business today. My real question is, can they just tighten up that offensive line? I worry about that, but those weapons, they're going to be running free. Joe Burrow is going to be focused. That's my first official play of the day, Bengals -6.
Love it. We're going to venture a little bit further down south very briefly, right? Going into Carolina, Baker Mayfield and the 0-2 Panthers hosting the 1-1 New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston coming to town with the Saints. I hate this game. I hate these teams. I sat next to you last week and I told you Baker Mayfield, the Carolina Panthers are officially on the DNB list for me. Do not bet the Carolina Panthers. Do not bet Baker Mayfield. I can't trust the guy anymore. I hate them and I'm off of them. That being said, anybody that wants to bet the game, I love Carolina.
I mean, the Saints are on the do not bet list too. There's not enough wine in this house for me to watch that football game.
Yeah,
I don't even want to talk about it. This is a who cares matchup to me. Don't bet it. Don't put any props in with it. There's no totals, no spread. There's nothing here that you could give me like a good reason to bet this football game. Move on.
Bringing it up to Minnesota. We got 2 teams that we're very familiar with from the early part of the season. Detroit Lions are going into Minnesota. Kirk Cousins hosting Jared Goff and co. What do you think about that one? I mean, after the game that we saw the Eagles in Minnesota have on Monday night, Minnesota getting really the shit kicked out of them in Philadelphia.
Badly.
It's tough to come back on a short week, and now they're laying 6.5 in Minnesota, down a little bit from the opener of 7. What do you think about the Lions' chances in this one to keep it close?
That spread to me says the Vikings handle business today. But after watching both those teams play football, the Lions are tough. That's a scrappy football team. I don't want to touch that game, but I do personally lean Vikings to have a good bounce back week in a big division game. But it's like I'm kind of being a hypocrite because what we're going to talk about next, I'm going to have the complete opposite stance. So to me, I just don't feel right about that matchup. I think that's going to be a good football game, but I think the Vikings handle business.
Yeah, I think the sharp money tells you that as well, right? So the Vikings they're getting less than 40% of the tickets, but almost 60% of the cash. So I think the sharp money agrees with you, and that in Minnesota taking care of business. I still think it's a little too long for me, the 6.5. So I'm staying away. I wouldn't mind a sprinkle on Detroit on the money line. I think Detroit, with a division matchup, can keep this one close, especially with the way they've played the last couple of weeks and been able to put up points as well. I know there's a lot of money riding on the over on this one, sitting at 51.5. But so like I said, I wouldn't hate a little sprinkle on the Detroit money line because I think this one could stay close. But otherwise, I don't like laying the 6.5 with Minnesota.
The real question,
not to mention what we saw with Kirk Cousins on Monday night. I mean,
I know.
I think I can count 2 throws. Right, there might have been 2 or 3 throws that incredibly lucky on, like overall on the night, where he put, I think, a couple on the outside where literally like it right behind the hands of the Eagles defenders. Otherwise, there was just as good of a chance of an interception or a reception on any given throw the other night. So I'm not willing to bank Kirk Cousins laying just under a touchdown. I'm willing him to bank, bet him beating a division opponent at home over a touchdown coming off a short week. I don't like that one.
The question really is, was that beatdown disheartening or inspiring for the Vikings? Did they get right focus this week, or are they really concerned about where they fall on the totem pole in the NFC? And you're going to find out today because the Lions are feeling pretty good about themselves, played the Eagles very tough, beat Washington, and that scoreboard does not reflect how that game went. They beat the hell out of Washington last week. But to me, that's a stay away play. I'm just going to let those division rivals just kind of settle it themselves. I don't want any skin in the game.
Yeah, we'll move on because I know you're excited about this next one. Bring it into Indianapolis, where Matt Ryan and the Colts are hosting Patty Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Opened up at 7, now down to 4.5, as low as 4.5, 5 at some spots. That's surprising because I know we jumped on and this line was 5.5 prior to jumping on live. So that line is moving today. Who do you like in Indianapolis?
I don't like Indianapolis, but I'm betting Indianapolis. They are not as bad as last week's showing, similar to the Vikings, but that team has too good of a foundational makeup for them to get the dog shit kicked out of them by Jacksonville. I just feel like that's a weird, like, cultural Colts thing where they always blow it early in the season and always blow it late. But I think they're going to find stride today. I'm not mad at them to win. I wouldn't be mad at a money line sprinkle, but I got them at 5.5, and I really like that bet. That is personally my favorite play of the day. And that line's fishy to me with how poorly the Colts had played. That line should be bigger, and it's not. And that to me says the Colts are going to be in that ball game.
Yeah, they're not 0-2, but they're winless nonetheless, right? So another team coming in at home against a quality opponent in Kansas City that needs to do everything they can to get a win, especially for their coach, Frank Reich. I didn't have an official play coming into this game. I'm an official rider now. I will ride with you on the Colts. Buying it at 5.5 before we jumped on live, seeing it at 5, 4.5. I love it even more. Again, like looking at the market here, with them getting only a third or less than a third of the tickets, but close to what's that now? Almost 50% of the money. I'm more than happy to ride with you on that. It has come down since we bought in. Especially at home, I could see them keeping this one close if they can control the game, the tempo. Particularly get the Jonathan Taylor and the run game going, which of course that's what they need to do to succeed the Colts team.
I'm seeing a lot of comments here. That bet's not for the faint of heart, boys.
No,
it's not for the faint of heart. And just like drinking wine at 12 p.m. isn't for the faint of heart. You need to be a real soldier to live like this. I'm riding with the Colts because everybody's here saying that they're riding with the Chiefs, and that's it. Everybody's high on the Chiefs. Everybody's way down on the Colts. Give me the Colts today.
71% of the people would agree with those comments and say we're crazy and the Chiefs are the pick. But why is only half the money on the Chiefs, right? Again, that's because it's telling you that big money is coming. There's some big money coming in on Indianapolis today.
Yeah, and I love that. I love a 50-50 split, but you see that the general public's on the Chiefs. So I'm riding with the Colts today. That's going to be one of those games where nothing's settled. Or actually, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to know within the first 10 minutes whether or not the Colts are going to get the dog shit kicked out of them, or I'm not going to know if they're going to cover that spread until 4 o'clock. And it is what it is. So it's not for the faint of heart, but give me the Colts. That's actually my favorite play of the day.
Hold your nose and play it, folks.
Yep.
All right, moving on. You want us to talk about a dogfight. So we got 2 0-2 teams in Tennessee. Derek Carr and the Raiders coming into Tennessee to play Tannehill and the Titans. Down to 1.5 at some spots, -2 at others. I'm seeing it anywhere from between 1.5 to the Raiders laying 2.5 in Tennessee. Who do you like this week, Mike?
I think the Raiders are a much better football team, but I trust Vrabel more.
Here we go.
What team do you think is going to be 0-3? The Raiders are a better football team. There's no arguing that. They should have never went to overtime last week. They lose on a fumble by Hunter Renfrow. He hasn't fumbled since Clemson.
Fumbled twice last week.
He fumbled twice. Son of a bitch. I don't know what it is, but every time I bet for or against the Cardinals, I get the opposite side of them. But I lean Raiders. I really don't want to touch that game because right now I don't trust either team at all. The Titans, talk about a team that's shown me nothing. I think they're pretty bad. I think the Raiders are a better football team and they should win that game, but that line is kind of telling me otherwise. So I'm just going to stay away from it.
I'm channeling my inner Sean on this one. I am staying far and away from the Tennessee offense. I think the Raiders are the better team. I think both teams are incredibly desperate. There's a little bit of an edge towards the home team there, but I think the Raiders are the better 0-2 team, need to win. I think they find a way to get it. I like laying under a field goal. So give me the Raiders to take this one in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to put my money on it, that would be the side that I'm choosing. I'm with you on the Raiders.
Speaking of channeling your inner Sean, his boy, Davis Mills, and the Houston Texans are taking their towns to Chicago against Justin Fields and the Bears. Texans now getting 3 anywhere you're looking across the board, up from the 2.5 opener. Do you lean any way in Chicago?
I have an official play on the Texans. He's kind of sold me on Davis Mills. I don't think the kid's bad. I think that game comes down to quarterback play. And right now, just the Bears look pathetic. They're 1-1. They're not really 1-1. That Texans tie to me is more impressive than that win in Chicago. Yeah, I like the Texans to win.
I like the Texans. Yeah, I like the Texans as well. I was going to add it to the official card today. I like the +3. Even I think, and it looks like actually if you sneak in at DraftKings Bet365, you can get it at even vig. I paid the $115 for the +3 earlier, but I do like Houston. I like them to win the game as well. Also like the under in this game. It's a low total. So again, if you want to look at the trends for low totals in the early going part of the season, they generally favor the under. I'm happy with taking the under 39 in this one. I like the way that the spread's shaken out there too in terms of the market. So on Houston and the under in this one. Let's ride Davis.
Yeah, that's going to be an ugly one. I'm not going to put that on my TV. I don't want to watch it. That's just one of those. I want to look at it at 4:00 and just see how it shook out. That's it.
I mean, again, dogfight, right? Not too pretty teams. And it's interesting when you look at like where these teams are and like how you look at quarterback building and building your franchise around a quarterback in the NFL, and just like the big difference in just the types of players that these two quarterbacks are. So like where in Fields, I think you have a really high ceiling there, the ability to make some pretty, unbelievable plays with his athleticism. But whereas Mills has just been very steady at the helm for Houston since kind of taking over last year, and has made them, a competitor, in a lot of these games. Even covering in Denver last week.
Yeah. No, that guy plays tough football. He might be my new Taylor Heineke. I'm pulling for that kid.
Yeah. Another good one later on today. This one in LA, we got the Chargers. As you'll see on Insights here, we got TBD starting again and hosting for the Chargers against Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence and co. Justin Herbert, still not sure whether or not he's going to give it a go today with the injury. His backup, Chase Daniel. So with that question mark at quarterback for the Chargers, we've seen this line drop big time during the week. Opened up at Chargers laying 7 at home, and now as low as 3.5, pretty much across the book, Mike. You have any lean on this one, or is the quarterback question scaring you away from this game?
I lean Jacksonville, but I mean, honestly, even if Herbert plays with broken ribs, I would rather have Chase Daniel spin. That's just my personal take on it. I think Justin Herbert's a little overrated, but I lean Jacksonville. But the only reason I'm not betting them is because that spread to me is a slight overreaction to their last week's performance. And I know that they have to put that all into consideration, but 3.5 is a little too short for me traveling to LA. I don't know how much I like that. But we'll find out if Doug Peterson actually has that team ready to play. And if the Colts do lose today and Jacksonville competes with the Chargers, I'm not going to be surprised if the Jags are in the mix to win that division.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great call. And depending on how the Colts can, depending on how today shakes out, I think you're going to have a better idea of how that division's shaping up. We mentioned the Texans in the last game. Don't count out the Texans either, because it sounds like if the Colts can't get things going in Indianapolis, then this division could be wide open for any one of those teams to take the next step.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we like the Raiders in Tennessee today, so you have Tennessee staring at 0-3 potentially as well. Yep. So that division is looking wide open, but again, not as particularly strong as we thought either.
Are you jagging off today?
So I was very close. I'll let you know this, Mike. Wednesday, when we were going through this slate, and I had put out an early card, I was staring at the +7 in Jacksonville, and for whatever reason at that time, I didn't pull the trigger. Woke up on Thursday, saw it down to 4.5. It's at 3.5, like we mentioned. Just for that alone, the signs are telling me I cannot buy in and jag off today. I will, but I'll tell you that I love the Jags. If anybody wants an angle in this game, Jags and the under is the way to go. You're talking, when you want to talk about that 50-50 ticket split, you're looking at a close to 50-50 ticket split here, with 80% of the money coming in on Jacksonville and the 3.5. So I lean heavy Jacksonville. Again, I'm just not playing it because I stared at +7 and didn't pull the trigger earlier in the week. So I'll sacrifice that for the TYP followers, but give out the play and let them take advantage of it.
I like it.
That's enough on this one, though, but because we got an even bigger matchup, better game this afternoon. This one's going to be on all of our TVs across the nation. I believe it's the Fox game of the week. TB12 and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are hosting and laying a point and a half to the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. This was one of my early favorites, Mike. I love the Green Bay Packers this week. I like them to win in Tampa Bay. Are you discount double checking with me this week?
Honest to God, I think I am. And it just hurts me to say it. I think Rodgers gets them this time. They righted the ship last week. The Bucs haven't looked dominant yet. Still banged up at wide receiver.
And the suspension to Evans hurts them today.
Definitely. I don't know who, but Brady will find a way to get somebody in the mix. I'm not worried about them moving the ball. There's just something about that week 1 beatdown to me that Aaron Rodgers was like, we're just going to handle business in week 2, go to Tampa Bay and make a statement then. And I feel like we're going to see a discount double check style statement today from Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I'm going to tell you on this one. That's going to be an official play for me as well. And your confidence around 10:30 this morning around the Packers inspired me. So I'm with you.
I'm glad I could have that effect on you. And I have to say that that confidence is coming. It's an internal confidence on this one. It's a gut play. I like the Packers. I think they're the better team at this point in the season, and I'd like them to win this game, a big game late this afternoon on a big stage, because the market across the board is really split on this. I'm not seeing a particular lean one way or another just by looking at the splits. But again, my gut tells me that Green Bay gets this one in Tampa Bay today. I mean, like I said, we're locked in at 2.5 earlier in the week. It's down a little bit. It's not like we're not picking up any key numbers there. But at the same time, like I said, I still like Green Bay to win it.
I'm with you.
All right, let's wrap up this late afternoon slate before we get into the big one. Seattle is hosting Marcus Mariota and the Falcons. Geno Smith going for Seattle today. Seattle laying a point in Seattle. Do you like anything on this one? Not the sexiest matchup.
I could not care any less about this game.
I will tell the people. Go ahead. I love Atlanta. We can leave it at that. I like Atlanta. I like them all week. In fact, I think the market is now liking Atlanta a little too much. I think they're the better team in this one going into Seattle. So I would ride with Atlanta on what is essentially a coin flip game, but otherwise, like I said, not the greatest matchup. We can move on.
Yeah, no, that game has zero implications on the rest of the NFL. I'm actually glad that two bad teams are playing each other. Atlanta's played tough, though.
Exactly, yeah.
So I will give you that. Atlanta's playing good football as far as where their standards are set. They are playing good football.
Marcus Mariota is not – he's not going to set the world on fire. We may have thought of coming out of Oregon, when he came out. Yeah. But, he can manage the game and make some plays with his legs for Atlanta to at least keep them a lot more competitive than we had thought at least through 2 weeks of the season.
Definitely. I think they're actually one of the better stories going into week 3. Like, they have actually played every team very tough.
Yeah.
And
One of those teams is your boy Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams playing and traveling to Arizona this week against Kyler Murray and one of your favorite teams, the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams are now laying 3.5, dropped a little bit from the opener of 5. That didn't scare me off the Rams. I think they're just all in all a better team. Go and check out Sean McVay's record against Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff Kingsbury's record against just quality coaches. It's not great against the spread. I'm more with you talked about Vrabel and the matchup with Tennessee and Las Vegas. I usually am more of the notion that the coaches don't play the game, the players play the game. But in this instance, with Sean McVay and the way that he has, certain coaches' numbers, particularly in the division, I'm going to play those trends. Lay the 3.5. I'm taking the Rams today in Arizona.
That's a really good point. And I'm going to do you an even bigger favor and just not touch it.
Thank you. I would appreciate that, actually.
Yeah, there's just something about the juju around me and the Arizona Cardinals. I just can't figure them out. Granted, last week was one of those games where the Raiders cannot even let them back in the ball game, but they did. I'm with you on the Rams. I'm just not going to ruin that vibe for you.
Love it. Thanks. Always appreciate it. I'm sure the TYP followers do as well. All right, Mike, let's get into the one that we really care about. The one that, the one that matters here. Birds going down to Washington, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. Birds opening up as 4-point favorites. It got as high as 6.5 throughout most of the weekend. I see now it's down to 6 at pretty much across the market. Do you like the Birds to cover this week? Can they beat Wentz and the Commanders by a touchdown?
I don't like the Birds to cover, and I will pay to watch them cover. Even if they do, I personally think as soon as the national media crowns you the favorites of the NFC, it's hard to stay focused when all the media's around you, all the hype's around you. You kind of lose that dog in you. This week, I think it's going to be a scrappy football game. I personally think that it's going to be a 4 or 3-point game in favor of the Eagles, but I locked in the Commanders at 6.5. I love that bet in a division game. Tough loss for the Commanders last week. People are down on them. Huge win for the Eagles last week. People are high on them. Division rivalry. Give me the Commanders.
Yep. And that's exactly what I had in my little spot Wednesday when I put out the early slate. I have Commanders at 6.5. I just think it's a tough spot for the Birds. Division game away, coming off a short week, big Monday night win at home against the Vikings, against really a quality opponent, much more quality opponent than Washington. I like the game to be close. I like Washington to keep it close at home, but I do like the Birds to win. Like at the end of the day, I think, like you said, a 3-4 point game, and some points to be scored too. I could see Wentz and Hurts going back and forth a little bit in this one, with the Eagles coming out on top, but Washington keeping it close.
I honestly, I think we're going to see a pretty good performance from Carson Wentz. I wouldn't be surprised by that. The defense was buzzing around last week. They looked great.
Yeah.
I can see Carson Wentz showing out a little bit against his old team. Just on like a little spiteful type of vibe. I mean, they have some decent weapons down there. Like, they can play ball. But to me, it's just as soon as you're crowned the NFC favorites, I just don't like whatever team it is the next week. And the fact that it's the Eagles, I think this one's just going to be a scrappy football game. And it's all the points that we've talked about literally for the course of the last 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah, my biggest thing, I would say, you mentioned it already, is how does the defense respond coming off that big win? Like, I trust, at this point, I trust Jalen Hurts and the offense to move the ball against Washington in Washington. Yeah. And we saw it Monday night, the only thing that can hold this Eagles offense back is itself, right? It's its own mistakes, the penalties, unforced turnovers, whatever it may be. Like, that's the only thing that is going to hold this offense back, because you have playmakers everywhere, right? So to me, the defense came out and really put out a showing on Monday night. How did they respond in a tough division matchup on a short week?
Yeah, I agree. I like our spot with the bets, and especially being Eagles fans. Win, don't cover, and if you do cover, that's great. I would love for them to make a statement
Yeah,
today,
be
and
great.
then just like
I'll
to me,
pay, like you
if
said, I'll
they,
pay to see it.
yeah, if they do beat a division rival by 7 after that huge Monday night performance, then now it's like officially the league is on notice. But we just know how the ebbs and flows of the NFL work.
Exactly.
And this spot, particularly, I think is just going to be a scrappy football game for the Birds. So I like the Commanders at +6.5 in this spot.
Yeah, that I hate to say it, but it might be one of my favorite plays.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to talk too much for or against the Eagles, just because we already know how that goes. But looking at the board, that was the first game that I saw and marked off on like Commanders +6.5 without a doubt.
Well, then
Um,
let's not be down on them too long. Then let me know what you got exotically. Like, let's get weird with it. You have any touchdown scores, any props at all, any particular lines that you like teasing today? Let's get weird. So, what do you got in that realm?
I like a weird little touchdown score parlay. It's going to be Dallas Goedert, Logan Thomas, and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, you're going to see a lot of heart like you did week 1 with him today because he's going to have to with all the guys that are out on his defense. I think you're going to see a little bit more with his legs. So I put that in touchdown score. That is plus 2,300. So that's a nice little payout. And then just Dallas Goedert, Logan Thomas. I'm still waiting for both of those guys to really have a good game. Neither one of them have played poorly yet, but I could definitely see both of them getting in the end zone because I could see both these teams being in the red zone a lot today.
I like the Josh Allen pick a lot because I kind of mentioned my touchdown scores, and going in that game, it was kind of between Diggs and Allen, but just decided to go just chalkier because of just like adding in the different touchdown scores for the parlay. So Diggs, Kelsey, Andrews, I got at pretty much 9-1, just over 9-1. A little chalkier, like I said. I tried to find some touchdown guys or guys that score touchdowns that I liked in those games that we didn't really have strong takes on or strong plays on, just to make it a little bit all that more fun. So I threw that in there. Also, don't mind teasing down some of these. We see there's a lot of great like teaser lines. I think you got some like 2.5s, 1.5s at home that you could bring up over a touchdown. Carolina in particular, that line with New England, another one. And then you also have a couple 6-point favorites that I like bringing down. So any of either 2 or 3 of Vikings, Cincinnati, and Philly, bringing them down to essentially a pick 'em. I like that a lot. If you bring all 3 down, it's 160. But the 3 or any 2 of the 3, I like those as teaser pieces too.
Yeah, I think you could take a lot of the big favorites down and bring a lot of the dogs up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit more security. I think this is actually a beautiful teaser week. Um, I don't really have any marked down right now, but looking at all the spreads, and you could get a lot of good football numbers at pretty much any game across the board.
Yeah.
So if you don't really love the lines, you could definitely shop around a little bit and give yourself a little bit more sense of security. But yeah, that's really all I got for today, Rob.
I mean, isn't that enough?
Yeah, there's plenty. There is plenty, and
Yeah.
we have a huge game with the Birds today.
Yeah.
We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I think let's go get situated. We got a big 1 o'clock slate coming up. Everybody, there's still some time. Leave some comments. We're giving out $100 every week. I mean, who else is doing this for you people? Giving you a bunch of winners, giving out free money, giving out tickets, giving out merch. Who does it better than us? Nobody. All right, Rob.
All right,
Until
bye.
next
Enjoy
time.
this week.